If your knees have been keeping you from doing any kind of leg strengthening because you assume it all involves squats and lunges and movements that make you wince, I want you to stay right here for the next few minutes, because what I am about to share with you is a 4-minute routine specifically designed for sensitive knees that still builds the kind of leg strength that keeps you walking steadier, stepping more confidently, and feeling safer on your feet. This is not about pushing through pain or gritting your teeth through exercises that leave you aching for days afterward. This is about working with your body in a way that respects what your knees can handle while still giving you real results in the muscles that matter most for balance and mobility. In a moment, I am going to teach you a simple pain rule that tells you exactly how to know if a movement is helping or hurting, and I will also show you a quick 30-second self-check you can do before every session to pick the right intensity for that particular day. Those two pieces alone have helped so many of my patients finally feel confident exercising their legs again after years of avoidance. But before we get into the routine itself, I want to make sure you understand why this approach works so well and why the exercises I have chosen are different from what you might have tried before. Drop a comment right now with your age and where you are watching from today. If you are a caregiver watching this for a parent or spouse, just type the word caregiver so I know you are here too. I read these comments, and it helps me create content that actually serves the people who need it most. Here is something that might surprise you about knee discomfort and leg weakness. In many cases, the knee itself is not the root problem. The knee is often the victim of what is happening above it at the hip and below it at the ankle. When your hip muscles are weak, particularly the ones on the side and the back of your hip, your knee has to absorb forces and compensate for instabilities that it was never designed to handle on its own. When your ankle and foot muscles are sluggish, your ability to clear your toes during walking decreases, and your knee ends up working overtime to lift your leg in awkward ways. Research consistently shows that strengthening the muscles around the hip dramatically reduces stress on the knee joint, and clinicians who work with older adults see this play out every single day. The beautiful thing about this approach is that you can strengthen those supporting muscles without ever putting your knee through deep bending, impact, or the kinds of loaded positions that typically cause flare-ups. This is the part most people miss when they think about leg exercises. They assume leg training means squats and lunges and step-ups, and when those hurt, they give up entirely. But the muscles that actually keep you steady and safe can be trained in positions that keep your knee comfortable, often with very gentle ranges of motion, or even completely static holds where the joint barely moves at all. The routine I am about to teach you targets 4 specific areas: your glutes and hips for step power and stability, your shins and foot lifters to reduce toe catches, your lateral hip muscles to control side-to-side wobble, and your hamstrings along the back of your thigh to support your stride. 4 movements, each one knee-friendly, and together they take about 4 minutes once you know them. Now, let me give you that 30-second self-check I promised, because this is how you know which version of each exercise to use on any given day. Your knees might feel different on Monday than they do on Thursday, and that is completely normal. Before you start the routine, stand near your kitchen counter or a sturdy chair back with one hand lightly touching for support. March in place gently for about 10 seconds, lifting your knees just a comfortable amount, nothing high or forceful. Then stop and do one small hip hinge, which just means softening your knees slightly and pushing your hips back a few inches as if you were about to sit, but then standing right back up. If you felt stable during the march, and you did not feel any pinching or sharp sensation in your knee during that tiny hinge, you are good to proceed with the standard versions I will describe. If something felt off, if you noticed a twinge or you felt unsteady, that is your signal to choose the easier version of each movement today, and that is perfectly fine. This is not about being tough. This is about being smart. Try that self-check with me right now. If you are near something sturdy, just 10 seconds of gentle marching, then one small hip hinge. Notice what your body tells you. That information is going to guide how you approach the next 4 minutes. Before we begin the actual routine, I need to give you the pain rule that will protect your knees and help you build confidence over time. Here it is, in simple terms. During any exercise, you should feel zero sharp pain. Dull muscle effort or mild fatigue is fine, but sharp stabbing or pinching in the joint itself means stop immediately and either reduce the range of motion or skip that movement for today. After you finish the routine, your knee should feel the same as it did before, or perhaps even a little looser and better. If you notice increased swelling, stiffness that was not there before, or if your knee is complaining more 2 hours later or the next morning, that tells you the session was too much and you need to dial it back next time. Same or better within 2 hours and the next morning is the gold standard. If you remember nothing else from this video, remember that rule because it will serve you well with any exercise you ever try. Now, I do want to briefly mention some situations where you should not be doing this routine at all without first seeing a healthcare provider. If you have significant knee swelling that appeared suddenly, if your knee locks up or gives way unexpectedly, if you had a recent injury or fall that affected the knee, or if your pain has been rapidly worsening over the past few days, please get that checked before proceeding. And of course, if you ever experience chest pain, fainting, severe shortness of breath, sudden new weakness or numbness on one side of your body, new confusion, or a sudden severe headache, stop everything and seek urgent care immediately because those are signs of something far more serious than a knee issue. Let us move into the routine now, and I want you to do this with me if you are able. Position yourself at a counter or behind a sturdy chair, standing with your hands lightly resting on the surface for balance. We are going to start with a movement that targets the back of your hip and your glutes, and it involves absolutely no deep knee bending. Stand about a foot away from the counter, facing it, with your feet about hip width apart and your knees soft, meaning just slightly bent, not locked straight, and not deeply flexed. Now here is the movement. You are going to press your hips forward gently. Squeeze your glutes as if you are trying to hold a coin between them, and hold that squeeze for about 5 seconds while keeping your upper body tall. You are not leaning backward. You are not arching aggressively. You are simply pressing forward through the hips, squeezing the muscles in your backside, and holding. Then relax for a moment and repeat. Do this with me right now, 5 squeezes at about 5 seconds each. Press forward, squeeze, hold, breathe normally, and release. That is 1. You should feel the effort in your glutes, not in your lower back, and definitely not in your knees. If you feel any knee discomfort, make sure your knees are staying soft and you are not locking them out. The easier version is to reduce the intensity of the squeeze and shorten the hold to 3 seconds. The harder version is to lift one foot slightly off the ground during the squeeze, so you are balancing on one leg while engaging your glutes. But start with the basic version today and feel how your body responds. Now, we are going to shift to a movement that wakes up the muscles along the front of your shins, the ones responsible for lifting your toes when you walk, so you clear the ground with every step. This is one of the most overlooked muscle groups in fall prevention, and keeping these strong can be the difference between catching your toe on a rug or lifting cleanly over it. For this one, you can stay standing at the counter or you can sit in a sturdy chair with your feet flat on the floor. I actually prefer the seated version because it completely eliminates any knee stress. If you are sitting, scoot forward just slightly so your feet can rest flat without your thighs pressing hard against the chair edge. Now, keeping your heels firmly planted on the floor, lift just your toes and the front of your feet up toward the ceiling. Hold for about 2 seconds and then lower them back down. These are toe lift pulses, and they directly train the muscles that pick up your foot during the swing phase of walking. Do about 10 to 15 of these right now with me, if you can. Lift, hold briefly, lower. Lift, hold, lower. You should feel a gentle tightness or burn developing along the front of your shin after several repetitions. If you feel nothing, try lifting a bit higher and holding a bit longer. If you feel cramping, that actually means these muscles need this work, but ease off the intensity and build up gradually. The easier version is smaller lifts with shorter holds. The harder version is adding a small resistance band over the top of your feet, or simply slowing down each repetition to a full 3 seconds up and 3 seconds down. This move is completely knee neutral since your knee angle does not change at all during the exercise. Here is where I would love to hear from you in the comments. When do your knees complain the most? Is it going up or down stairs, getting out of a chair, or during longer walks? Let me know because it helps me understand what topics to cover in future videos, and your answer might help someone else in the comments realize they are not alone with that particular struggle. Now let us continue with the third movement in this routine. And this one targets the muscles on the outside of your hip that control side-to-side stability. These are the muscles that keep you from wobbling when you stand on one leg, which happens with every single step you take. Weakness here is one of the biggest contributors to that unsteady feeling people describe when walking, and the good news is these muscles respond beautifully to simple targeted exercise. Stand at your counter again with both hands lightly touching for support. Your knees should be soft, not locked. Now take a small step directly to your right, about 6 to 8 inches, and as your right foot lands, tap it firmly, freeze for a full 2 seconds, and really feel the muscles on the outside of your left hip working to control your body as it shifts. Then bring your left foot to meet your right foot. That is 1 repetition to the right. Now step to the left, tap and freeze. Feel the outside of your right hip engage, and bring your feet together. This is the side step with tap and freeze, and it builds lateral hip control without requiring any squat or deep knee bend. Stay with me here and do this for about 30 seconds, alternating directions. Step right, tap, freeze, feel it, return. Step left, tap, freeze, feel it, return. The key is that freeze moment where you pause and let your hip stabilizers do their job. If you rush through, you miss the benefit. The easier version is taking smaller steps and keeping both hands firmly on the counter. The harder version is using just fingertip support or eventually no support at all, and taking slightly wider steps. Your knees should feel fine during this because you are stepping onto a straight leg, not bending into a squat. If you feel any knee discomfort, make your steps smaller and ensure you are landing gently, not stomping. The final movement in this routine targets the back of your thigh, your hamstrings, using an isometric contraction that requires no bending and puts no stress on your knee joint. This is a standing heel dig, and it is wonderfully simple. Stand at your counter with your hands resting on the surface for support. Shift your weight onto your left leg, and extend your right leg just slightly behind you so your right heel is touching the ground, but your toes are lifted. Now, without actually moving your leg, press your right heel firmly into the floor, as if you are trying to drag it backward toward you. You will feel the muscles in the back of your right thigh engage and harden, even though nothing is visibly moving. Hold that contraction for about 5 seconds while breathing normally, then relax. That is 1 repetition. Do 5 on the right side, then switch to the left and do 5 more. Try this with me right now. Press your heel into the floor, like you are trying to drag it backward. Feel the hamstring engage. Hold, breathe, release. This is an isometric exercise, meaning the muscle is working hard, but the joint is not moving through a range of motion, which makes it exceptionally knee-friendly. The easier version is a lighter press with shorter holds. The harder version is pressing more firmly and holding for 8 to 10 seconds per repetition. Some people also find it helpful to do this with the front of their working foot against a wall for more feedback, pressing backward into the wall rather than into the floor, but the floor version works perfectly well. After completing both sides, you have now finished all 4 movements, and if you went through them at a comfortable pace with proper holds and brief transitions, you just completed roughly 4 minutes of knee-friendly leg training that addressed your glutes, your shins, your lateral hip stabilizers, and your hamstrings. Now I want to talk about how to progress this routine over the coming week, because consistency and gradual challenge are what transform a single session into lasting improvement. For the first 2 days, focus purely on learning the movements and finding versions that feel completely comfortable for your knees. If the standard versions felt fine today, stick with them. If you needed the easier versions, that is your starting point, and there is nothing wrong with that. By day 3 and 4, once the movements feel familiar, try holding each position 1 or 2 seconds longer than you did initially, or add 1 or 2 extra repetitions to each movement. These tiny increases are enough to challenge your muscles without overwhelming your joints. By day 5, 6, and 7, you might experiment with the harder versions I described if your knees have been feeling good. Or you might simply make your movements a bit more controlled and deliberate, which increases the challenge without changing anything else. The goal by the end of the week is to feel like this routine is becoming second nature, something you can do every morning or evening without having to think hard about the instructions. And here is something important for bad days, because everyone has them. If you wake up and your knees are achy or stiff, do the 30-second self-check, and if it does not feel right, either do only the seated toe lift pulses, which put zero demand on your knees, or skip the routine entirely and try again tomorrow. One skipped day does not erase your progress, but one day of pushing through pain can set you back significantly. Respect what your body is telling you. If you found this helpful and you want to see more content, like this designed specifically for older adults with sensitive joints, tapping the like button and subscribing to the channel helps more than you might realize. It tells the algorithm to share this video with other people who are searching for knee-friendly exercises, and it helps this community of viewers supporting each other continue to grow. I only mention this once because I know you came here for practical help, not for repeated requests, but that small action genuinely makes a difference in reaching others who need this information. Now, I want you to try this routine today if you have not already done the movements along with me. Stand at your counter, go through all 4 exercises, and when you are finished, come back here and leave a comment telling me which movement felt the best to you and which one, if any, bothered your knee. That feedback is incredibly valuable because it helps me refine these routines for future videos, and it might also help another viewer who is reading comments to figure out if this routine is right for them. If any movement caused sharp pain, unusual swelling, or if your knee felt worse 2 hours later or the next morning, that is a sign to consult with a physical therapist or doctor who can look at your specific situation and figure out why that particular movement did not agree with you. Sometimes, a small tweak in positioning makes all the difference, and sometimes an underlying issue needs to be addressed before that movement is appropriate. I want to leave you with this final thought. The biggest barrier I see in my practice is not weak legs. It is the belief that leg exercises must hurt, must involve deep squats, must leave you sore for days. That belief keeps people sedentary, and sedentary legs get weaker month after month, which makes knees hurt more, which reinforces the belief that exercise is the problem. The routine I just shared with you proves there is another way. You can strengthen the muscles that keep you safe and mobile while being completely respectful of your knee joints. You can feel the work happening in your glutes, your shins, your hips, and your hamstrings without a single deep bend or jarring impact. And when you do this consistently, something almost magical happens. Your knees often start to feel better, not worse, because the muscles around them are finally doing their job and taking the load off the joint itself. 4 minutes a day, 4 movements, no suffering required. Take good care of yourself and those legs that have carried you all these years. They deserve your attention, your patience, and this gentle strengthening that meets them where they are. I will see you in the next video.